Hello, welcome to Empowered Woman Live. It's Tuesday, time for Empowered Woman Live. So if you're here live, go ahead and put a hashtag live. And if you're here for the replay, hashtag replay, okay? So today we're talking about the cost of putting yourself last and how to shift it. Let me ask you something. Have you ever found yourself lying in bed, totally exhausted, but still running through the to-do list for everyone but you? I know that version of life because I've lived it for years, or I lived it for years, past tense. When I was going through nursing school while navigating even homelessness and raising my son, I told myself the same lie over and over again. Once I finish this paper, once I get this through this shift, once I make sure he's okay, then I'll rest. Then I'll take care of me. But then, that then never came. And what I didn't realize until years later is this. There's a real cost to putting yourself last. Let's see who's here. Hi, is it Andy? Hi there. Welcome. So we're talking about the cost of putting yourself last. So it doesn't just live in your schedule, it lives in your body, in your energy, in your relationships, in your ability to even remember who you are and what you want. This is the cost of putting yourself last. So today let's talk about that cost, what that cost really is, and more importantly, how we can shift it. Not just temporarily, but in a way that feels sacred and sustainable. There are the three hidden costs of putting yourself last. So let's dive in. Emotional depletion. When I was working part-time, going to school and raising my son solo, I gave and gave until there was nothing left. I didn't even notice at first because I was in survival mode. But the signs were all there. The snappy tone at my son, the tears behind closed doors, the numbness that crept in when I finally had a moment alone. I'd have those moments I couldn't even connect with myself. I was so disconnected from who I was. And that's what happens when your emotional tank runs bone dry and you get used to operating on fumes. Eventually, love even starts to feel like a duty. And let me back this up a little bit. I remember, and this is kind of different because I was taking care of my dad when he had brain cancer, and he was not quite on hospice when I first got there, but in the ensuing weeks, he was on hospice. And I was going, and he was up at night, and he was confused, and he was a fall risk. And he went to the hospital for some treatments before he decided on hospice. So I had taken him down there, and I got back to the house, and I had been going for over a week with him, maybe a week and a half, and I was exhausted. And I remember I had been sleeping on the couch. I got in his bed that night, and I laid there and cried. I felt so exhausted, and so there's sometimes in our life when we really need to be there for someone. But when we make it a habit, it what's the word? It erodes at us, right? It depletes us. Like I said, I'm so grateful I got to be there for him. And for me, it was one of the callings of my life to be a retired nurse practitioner and to be there for him. But, those are the acute situations. It's the selflessness and taking care of everyone else and seeing to all of their needs, and literally not including yourself in that. Literally not including yourself. So that first one is emotional depletion. And then identity erosion. One day I looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize myself, not physically, but energetically. Who was this woman who never laughed anymore? Who forgot what she wanted in life? I used to be a dreamer, a romantic, a believer in big possibilities, but somewhere in the caretaking and surviving, I lost her. And the scariest part, I wasn't sure I'd ever find her again. So that's the identity erosion. And the third one is subconscious sabotage. Listen up. This one's really common. And it runs deep. Because every time you put your needs at the bottom of the list, your subconscious learns, I don't matter. When you put your needs last, your subconscious learns this message, oh, I don't matter. And when that belief takes root, it becomes a lens through which you see your life. You might start self-sabotaging your joy, your health, your success, because deep down, it doesn't feel like you deserve those things. So what were those 3 hidden costs? Emotional depletion, identity erosion, subconscious sabotage. I worked with a woman who couldn't finish a project, couldn't say yes to love, couldn't even receive compliments because of this silent pattern. And I've lived it too. You know, how are you about receiving compliments? Are you the overgiver and not a good receiver? I'm here to help you balance that out, help you see how destructive that can be and the things you can do to balance it out. So why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we do it? Let's name the truth. We were all taught to be caregivers. Us girls, us women, we're all taught to be caregivers. The strong ones, the peacemakers. We learn to equate our value with our ability to serve others. When I did LifeSpring in the 90s, it's a personal development course, I started to unlearn this. But it wasn't until decades later in my feminine power work that I finally gave myself permission to prioritize me. Because putting yourself last doesn't make you good, it makes you disappear. It's not selfish to center yourself, it's sacred. See, that's a shift, right? And now let's talk about the shift. 3 small but mighty changes that you can make. And the first one's make micro moments sacred. You don't need a full weekend at a spa to reconnect with yourself. I used to sneak moments in the car before picking up my son from school. On one hand on my chest and a deep breath. And I'd say, I got this, or I got you. Yeah, I got you. Just taking that moment, taking a breath. Go ahead and try that now. Take a nice deep breath, hand on your chest, and tell yourself what you need to hear. I got you. Sacred doesn't mean fancy. It means present. What if making your tea becomes a meditation? What if putting lotion on your hands becomes a blessing? Here's the next part. Ask, what do I need right now? What do I need? Start with this question. It's how I began rebuilding my relationship with myself. At first, I don't always know the answer, but just asking was the shift. And in Feminine Power, we do this exercise. What are you feeling? And when my husband passed away, I used this one. What are you feeling? And so you say it to yourself, Jeri, what are you feeling? I'm feeling afraid. I can see that you're feeling afraid. So what we're doing is holding space for ourselves, not trying to fix it. In the exercise, we do it one to the other person. But I have to tell you, when my husband passed away and I'm laying on my bed, I was asking myself, what are you feeling? And then what do you need? What do you need? So often we just repel against that. I know my husband asked me when my son was running amok many years ago, and I was all upset all the time and crying, and poor Randy, he just didn't know what to do with me, but he asked me the most profound question I think he ever asked, and the timing was amazing. He said, Hunters, what do you need? What do you need? And I couldn't name it, see, because I was so disconnected from myself. So it took me a day or so to figure out what I needed. And then it took another day or so for me to muster up the courage to ask for it. Do you see how disconnected we can be from ourselves to where we don't feel that we deserve it? You know, we can't even, or we are so numb that we can't name, and disconnected, we can't name our needs, right? So, yeah. Oh, so what did he give me? What did I ask for? This is so powerful. I told him I needed him to just hold me and let me cry. And he said, okay, let's go lay on the bed. And we laid on our bed, and he wrapped his arms around me, and I wailed. I just cried and cried. And the deeper I wailed, the deeper his embrace. And he's gone now. He passed away in 2016, but I remember that embrace. I remember those needs being met, feeling worthy enough to ask for it. So, what do you need? What do you need? And the thing is that when you're, what do I need right now? Here's the key. Honor it in every small way. Need rest? Pause for 2 minutes. Need connection? Send a loving text. This is how you build self-trust. When you identify what you need and you take at least a little action toward fulfilling that need. Yeah. Let me say a quick hello. Let's see. I think that says Bandy. And then Maria's here and Rose is here. Hello, ladies. Thank you for being here. So the third part, and we're talking about the 3 shifts. And the first shift was make micro moments sacred, and then ask, what do I need right now? And then the third part is reframe guilt into guidance. Now, here's a new one. You got to listen to this, okay? When I first started saying no to things, it drained me. Guilt came in strong. But I realized that guilt wasn't the sign I was doing something wrong. It was a sign I was doing something new. And every time I honored myself anyway, the guilt softened. Eventually, it became my guide. It whispered, you're breaking an old pattern, and that's exactly what's needed. Do you see that? So noticing that guilt, there's a reckoning going on when you're acknowledging that guilt. And then honoring yourself, right? What's the lesson here? What's the guidance I need from this? So that's reframing guilt into guidance. So let's do a short grounding again. I just love these. So place your hand on your heart and take a nice deep breath in and whisper something loving to yourself. Like, I matter. I choose me. I am allowed to be whole. And if this resonated with you, type enough in the chat. And don't do more than, and don't have to, you don't have to do more to be enough. You already are. You're enough. You are enough. Okay, how we doing? You're not here to be everything for everyone. Get the reality of that. You're not here to take care of everybody. You're here to be you fully, fiercely, and unapologetically. And I like to invite you to take care of yourself well enough so that you feed others from your overflow. And if you haven't heard that before, take heart to it, because it's a powerful way to show up. When I'm taking care of myself well enough so that I'm feeding others from my overflow, I'm asking myself, I'm checking in with myself, what do I need? Yeah. And then following through with filling those needs, because I can see that when I'm good, when I'm strong, when I'm vibrant, when I'm alive, I can feed others from my overflow. But when I'm depleted and frustrated, it just takes me down down a negative place. I like to mention, so it's like a pond, and there's fresh water coming in the pond, and there's fresh water going out of the pond, and then something happens upstream and it gets cut off. But I'm still giving. I'm still taking care of everyone else. Well, sooner or later, that pond is going to be mud, right? It's going to be dried up. So bring balance. Take care of yourself, give to others, right? Do it from an overflow. And what's the other one? Show up like a woman who is loved. Show up as like a woman who's loved. Like a woman who is loved unconditionally. Show up as a woman who's loved. What does that feel like? It's tapping into that possibility, and then you can be that, right? And move through your day knowing you're loved. Knowing you're worthy. It's a practice, because we have had all this habit of not feeling worthy, not feeling loved, and it's a conditioning. So this is a new conditioning. And just like we said, guilt makes, that uncomfortableness helps you reframe it, right? That uncomfortableness helps you reframe it. What did we say? Guilt. I lost it. Guidance. Guilt to guidance. What's my lesson here? What's my next step? What am I supposed to learn from this? In Feminine Power, I learned this powerful exercise of, you can be in the victim chair. You can be, well, I'll explain it like this. So I had this patient when I was a nurse practitioner, and she was talking about how abusive her boyfriend was, and how her parents, gave her a hard time. And it just really sounded like she was in this victim state. So I was sitting in a chair, and I said, okay, right now I'm sitting in the victim chair. This is where I feel, and I named some of the things. They're treating me badly, and they are, and all of that. And then I got up and I walked over across the room and sat in another chair, and I said, this is a possibility chair. This is the chair where I ask myself, what internal resources do I have? Right? Who am I? How can I be? How can I show up? What lessons can I learn from this? And then what external resources do I have? Who can I turn to? Where can I go to get information or more resources? Do you see? So I'm not stuck in the victim chair. I'm over here in possibility. When something happens, start looking for the possibility. And I like to say, when shit happens, turn it into fertilizer and grow something beautiful, right? Because stuff happens in your life. So learn from it and shift it. How many times in your life have something happened that you thought was horrendous at the time, and you look back on it and realize you got a lot out of it, and you can kind of laugh about it. You weren't laughing then, right? But this will help you get through that moment. And I'll leave you with this other piece. And this is from my Feminine Power training too. Imagine a big circle. And we're going to cut out 5%, just a little sliver of that circle, like a big pizza. We're only going to get 5% of the whole thing. And that's where I'm standing, and that's right. And so all of this is the things that are coming at me. It's causing me to be victimized, right? But standing in that 5%, I can expand my power to 100%. Of that 5%. That's all I'm responsible for, is that 5%. That's all their stuff. But what I'm saying is that when I can stand in the power of that 5% and expand it to 100%, it's a very empowering feeling. Now I have choices. Now I'm not a victim to their stuff, because I'm standing in my power, even if it's in this little sliver. And here's what happens. As you stand in your power, you do more courageous things. You set healthier boundaries. You treat yourself better. There's a lot of good to it. A lot of good to it. Okay, so if this is resonating with you, I'd like to invite you to a clarity call. And this is where we identify what is it you want, and are you satisfied with the different areas of your life? We're really kind of we really look through those areas, you know, your relationships, your finances, your career, your business, you know, whatever that is, because I really want to help you see what you want, what's in the way, and a way forward. There's a way forward, right? So if you like this kind of stuff, if this is resonating with you, let's have a conversation. Just put clarity in the chat. And let's see. And if you don't know me, if you're new to the group, I'm Jeri Cates. I help women, or I empower women. I really empower women to empower themselves and others. That's my quest, is to give you the tools so you make healthy choices for your life, so that you're in charge. One client said once, I get to decide what happens to me next. And I just thought that was the most powerful thing anyone could say. You know, I have another client that her family noticed just after a few visits in our coaching, our one-to-one coaching, that she had more confidence and she spoke with more clarity. Her father noticed, called her up one day before our third visit. And she attributed it to the work we were doing together, because I offer a course. It's the Essential Course for the Awakening Woman. And I took it back in 2013, and it was a life changer for me, a game changer. It gave me those tools about feelings and needs, and about dropping into my power center, about how you heal empathy, or you heal shame. And shame is like, I'm not enough, I'm not lovable, I'm invisible, you know, all of those things. Shame, you heal it with empathy. And the next part of it is connection to spirit, and you heal that disconnection. What disconnection from spirit is? Lack and limitation. If you're living in lack and limitation, you're disconnected from spirit. And what do I mean by spirit? That power greater than you, whatever that is for you. It's a connection and being a co-creator with spirit in your life. Can you imagine taking on that role, being a co-creator with God in your life, right? Where you're making choices, you're taking action. And the third part is about connection to others. We heal isolation with connection. And so we learn ways of showing up in relationships that are empowering. We learn ways of having conversations that are empowering. Like I did a healthy boundaries thing. I think last month. It's somewhere in the guides. When somebody asks you to, you know, if you'll do something, and I got this from Claire Zammit, she's the founder of Feminine Power, and she said, like somebody asks you to do something, you can say something like, well, my plate is full, but thank you for thinking of me. And what way? Don't let them, you know, don't give them our usual way of doing it. A lot of us is to give them excuses why. If you're always saying yes and you're trying to say no and then giving them excuses, they'll just use it against you, because you're rewriting the contract, right? They didn't get the memo that you're going to set boundaries now, so they're not going to like it at first. So you just breathe, stay really grounded, and thank them for thinking of you. Isn't that a beautiful twist? Yeah. Anyway, I could go on all day, but I won't. I'll see you back next week. I did notice that some of you are introducing yourselves in the group. Thank you. Please do that. Introduce yourself. Tell us what's important to you, what you want to learn, maybe, you know, what you're doing. It's really the one, we don't really talk about our business here in the group, but it's the one opportunity you can tell us what you do, right? Because we're not doing promos in the group, but it's your opportunity to share what you're passionate about. And then we get to know you and support you. All right? Okay. Have an amazing Tuesday, and thank you for staying, and I'll see you next week, if not sooner. Bye-bye.